Merry Christmas! Oh, excuse me moving like a old version of Billy Vunipola. I'm very static. I bent my back doing deadlifts, but you don't care about that. All you care about is that it's Christmas time, and we've made it to the end of another wonderful year in the rugby universe. So, thought I'd take this opportunity to talk about something a little bit fun, to create a nativity play full of rugby's weird and wonderful characters. So, without further ado, let's just drop straight into this. To start off with, I'm going to go big names first. Jesus. I think it's got to be DuPont. I mean, who else are you really going to be saying is the son of God in terms of rugby, not talking any religious aspects, more just talking about the sport itself. The blessed son come to save the sport and cleanse it of everyone else's sins. Getting too religious. He deserves to be that spot. I don't think there's anybody else there, and no one else would disagree with me on that. Moving on from Jesus, let's move on to Joseph. When you're thinking about Joseph, it needs to be someone that's selfless, not even his child, but he's committed to it like he's a father figure. He's going to deliver the baby a long way down the road. He's ultimately got like ultimate masculine energy for taking responsibility for something that's not even arguably his, right? For this selection, I've gone for Shaun Edwards. Moved over to France, coached the French national team like it was his own child, and set them in a defensive position that was full of discipline and did a great job with them. So I think Felix Jones might have also kind of graduated for this, coming over to the England setup, but unfortunately Big Daddy Borthwick came over and decided that he was no longer welcome within the squad, and Stuart Lancaster was another selection that I went with for as the Racing 92 head coach. But he's now putting his son in at 10 and getting universally hated for it, so he's more like a god figure rather than Joseph in this theological example. Moving swiftly on from Joseph, we'll move on to Mary. Thinking of the protective mother, right? The protective mother of rugby, so it's got to be someone who's kind of more of a mature figure in the sport, can't be a young gun. It's got to be a saint as well, and also has to be supposedly a virgin. That's right, I'm picking Dan Biggar. Dan Biggar used to play for Saints. Great player, you know, really kind of had a senior role in that 2023 World Cup squad, so I think he'd make a great Mary in this situation. So we've got the animals, of course. Donkey, big guy that kind of drags farm equipment around and does the ploughing, you know, just does a whole lot of work without a whole lot of complaints. I'm probably going to go for Peter O'Mahony in this one. You know, I think he does a lot of graft and a lot of things that you don't typically see everybody do, and you don't see it typically on the pitch either. He does a lot of unseen stuff, so Peter O'Mahony is going to be my donkey in this nativity play. The ox, it's got to be Oxenshea, I mean, for obvious reasons. And the sheep, feels a bit harsh doing, like, implying that anybody's a sheep at this stage, so we'll just go with, you know, whoever's left at the end. Shepherds, what do shepherds do? They watch their flock, they tend to the animals. I would probably say it's the coaches for Irish rugby to make sure their boys don't go over their minutes in terms of their provincial rugby, and they also don't do any interviews as well, which I guess would make the Irish rugby players the sheep. Anyway, the three wise men, yes. The three wise men, or the Magi, or the three kings. I kind of saw these characters as kind of like, you know, the leaders that recognize the importance, like they're the kings, they're wise, they know what they're doing, kind of like moving the whole zeitgeist in the right direction. So I think I've just picked probably the three best coaches in the sport at the moment. So that's Rassie Erasmus, Joe Schmidt and Andy Farrell. Rassie Erasmus and Andy Farrell are in there for obvious reasons, probably two of the best head coaches. I think probably the French head coach could get a name in here. But I wanted to give Joe Schmidt the opportunity to have his limelight from taking Australia from the absolute car crash that they were post Eddie Jones to now being in a competitive state, hopefully for the Lions tour. King Herod, the massacre of innocents, portrayed as a tyrant who would be willing to kill infants who would ultimately challenge his title. That's going to have to be Bill McSweeney. Yes, willing to let go of many employees to keep his bonus checks. I'm afraid that there's only one character appropriate for this, now getting his vote of no confidence from the RFU. So, yeah, I'm afraid it's Bill Sweeney for the role of King Herod. The innkeeper tells Joseph and Mary that there's no room left at the inn. So, who had Shaun Edwards and Dan Biggar in their organisation, but then ultimately left before the end? It's got to be Warren Gatland, hasn't it? I mean, I got to be fair and honest and The reality is neither of those guys left unceremoniously. They left on their own accord, so there's no bad blood there anymore, but otherwise, you know, I'm kind of picking Bill Sweeney again for another terrible role. So Warren Gatlin's kind of just put in there from a technicality point. Anyway, that's it. Don't want to keep you too much time. Go have fun with your friends and family. Enjoy this Christmas. I sure will. Trying to recover from snapping my back. Oh, Jesus, that fucking twinged. Anyway, have a good Christmas, and I'll see you in the next one. Moving on from Jesus. Oh, shit, dude. Okay. Is it still rolling? Please say it's still